Hello, Be Awesome listeners. This is Joshua Peach. I am really excited, as I always am, for episode 67 and every episode that we do. As you know, we've been keeping it local for a while. Lately, I have been asked by numerous people, which has really been appreciated. And I feel like you've been talking to my friend Chris Mills, who I talk to every single day for the last 2 years, because he's constantly saying, tell more of your story, Peach, tell more of your story, Peach, what's your why, and all that good stuff, to the point where he wants to interview me, but I'm afraid of the things that he might ask. So today I'm getting out of being local, because part of my story is with my guest today, and my guest is none other than inspirational motivational speaker Sam Glenn. Sam, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, Peaches. Thanks for having me.
Well, welcome, my friend. So the backstory and a little bit about me from my career in speaking is I've shared with a number of folks in episodes that the first time that I got to speak on stage was in 2009, and I choked. I showed up and I throwed up. What I did was, my fatal flaw in 2009 was I went and I saw the general session speaker, and it completely discouraged me. Incredible story, motivational, inspirational, but I was going next, and it was like anything that I said wasn't going to be able to relate to a Ironman triathlete, Olympian amputee that was in a car accident, lost his leg, and had all this motivation. And when he won the Ironman and had like the old school prosthetic leg, he poured beer in it and drank and wrote the book One Man's Leg. So it was like, there's nothing I could do talking about after hours use of buildings for that. So from 2009 to 2015, I was really just picking up odds and ends speaking gigs. Like someone would say, hey, we need a speaker, a speaker got hit by a bus and isn't going to make it today. Can you step in? And always just said yes, because I wanted to get experience, but I didn't have confidence. And one of the reasons why I didn't have confidence was I wasn't really ready to tell my story, or I didn't think I was ready to tell my story. And so over the years, I very rarely went and saw general session speakers. I very rarely went and saw other speakers. I'd go to events, I'd do my thing, and I'd leave, which wasn't healthy or good for me. And in 2015, we had the polar vortex. Our house was completely destroyed by ice dams. We didn't have a kitchen for 6 months. We didn't have a living room, a dining room. I mean, it was just living in a really tough place. It was taxing and stressful. And I got an opportunity to go to Oklahoma City to speak with a coworker and friend, Josh Green, which that's a story all in itself, but there's nothing better than walking into the hotel and saying, I'm Mr. Peach and this is Mr. Green. And they say, what's your first name? And you both say Josh at the same time. It's like straight out of Reservoir Dogs. But I was at the Oklahoma ASBO conference, and for whatever reason, well, I knew I was going to wake up early this morning. This morning, I woke up early and I drove to the Oklahoma City bombing site. I'd never been there. It's one of the most impactful and powerful, sombering, peaceful places where an amazing tragedy happened. 168 souls were lost in 1995. Somewhere around 600 people were injured. And they were able to build this absolutely gorgeous memorial. So I sat under the living tree, which is a huge, I think, oak tree that survived the blast. And just kind of was sitting there thinking about, I don't know what, just kind of reflecting and thinking about things. And I got back in time for the buffet breakfast that Oklahoma ASBO put on. And someone said, you got to come see this featured speaker. And so I went and I sat in the back of the room. And this big guy, I mean, how tall are you? You're
six, seven.
6'7".
Six,
Yeah.
six,
So
yeah, around there.
this big towering guy gets up, and I'm like, oh, great, here we go. And he gets up and he gets on stage, and he's got no PowerPoint, which I say there's no power, and what's the point? And so I try not to do him. And he's talking like he's saying he's got some notes, but he's just going and going and going and going. And all of a sudden he just says, he opens up with, I successfully completed college in just 5 years. And a light bulb went off, because I thought that was something that was so powerful for me, because it wasn't college, it was high school. It took me 5 years to finish high school, and it was something I've been embarrassed about my entire life. And it's a huge part of my story. And I never finished college. If anybody knows me professionally, I've never asked anybody where they went to college, because I don't want you to ask me. And so this light bulb went off, and I'm like, wow, if this guy can get up and share that that piece of his life, then I should be able to do it too. And so then a month later, I go to Ohio, and all of a sudden I see Sam Glenn's on the schedule. So I go and I watch him there, and it's the same keynote. It's modified for Ohio, but it's like I never heard it before, and I get amped up. And then I go to Maryland, D.C., where you had a hot coffee spilt on you by the drive-through person when you were coming from the
Oh, yeah.
airport, and I'm like, I feel like I'm stalking this guy through the year 2015, beginning of 2016. I start buying his books, and I start realizing that I can do this, and it was that pivotal. Those few words was what springboarded me to be okay with sharing my story on stage. And I'm going to share more of it in the podcast. But he's been unbelievably instrumental throughout my career in the last 5 years with my speaking, and why I think it's great to have him here, because he is the professor of attitude and positivity, and he's done amazing. The last thing I'll tell you, which is if you watch the podcast, and you've watched the podcast, you see one of Chris Mills' flags behind me all the time next to Natalia's painting, and the painting behind me is an eagle painting. And the day that I signed all the paperwork to become Be Awesome LLC, one of the first things I did was send Sam a message. And he didn't know me. I don't think we've ever officially talked. I bought a bunch of his books, but we never really actually talked. And I sent the LinkedIn message, and I said, it's my goal to have one of your paintings in my office. I just started Be Awesome LLC today. The eagle is extremely powerful for me. It's what's kept me going a lot over the years. And I got a message back that said, that is such a cool name of a company. What's your address? And I didn't even think why is this guy asking for my address? And no sooner than I thought about it, there was this painting here, and it sits in front of me every day. And the message that he doesn't paint these eagles anymore is to soar like an eagle, don't walk like a duck. But he's got some additional great sayings, some great philosophy. He's weathered the storm. He's weathering the storm that we're all weathering now. So I'm super excited to have you here, Sam. I hope you don't mind me long-winded sharing that story. I don't think I've ever shared that whole story, even with you in our conversation. So I thought important that you hear it. So
I'm sorry, I didn't hear a word you said. So
yeah.
Start over.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
Geez, let me get my notes. But Sam, tell everybody a little bit about you. How did you become the attitude guy? Talk about the painting, because you got a couple behind you, and how those come about, because that's amazing all in itself.
Well, I would say I'm a visual learner, and there's a lot of speed painters out there where they dance around the stage and splatter paint, and I would love to do that, but I'm not a great dancer, and if I splattered paint, I mean, I'd probably ruin the place. I mean, I do it here in my studio, and I can do it, but I've taken a more laid back approach with my art, which it just is one of those things where I used to play music, chalk art on a big bed sheet, but the chalk dust started getting to me. So I just started painting, and I actually kind of stumbled upon it. I didn't have music for an event, so I had a lapel, and I started painting while I was talking. And some guy came up afterwards, and he goes, "Man, you're just like that guy on PBS with the big hair and little Bob Ross." And he says, "That just felt amazing." And he's just like, "It's so relaxing." And he says, "I've seen speed painters before, they fly through it." And he says, "It's good to have that pump, but," he says, "watching you and watching it unfold and hearing a message with it," he said, "it brought him such a sense of peace, and it filled him up." And so that's kind of how I've adapted with the art. So I like to paint pictures that are meaningful to me, and I like to speak while I paint, and people tend to like that. So I'm a self-taught artist, and I mean, I'm learning. I got to keep learning. I'm an amateur, but I've never taken an art class, and it's just every day getting up and just trying to learn and become better.
Yeah, I was going to hold off on this. Kind of went right into play. I did take an art class last week. Here it is.
Nice.
What does it look like?
Hey, I
What is it?
like it.
What is it?
It's the beach
Yeah,
or the
no, it's
ocean.
yeah, no,
Is it a shell?
it's two elephants walking through the jungle by the mountains. Um,
Nice.
it's a sunrise or a sunset or something. There's some birds. Um,
That's awesome.
you know, truth be told, it's funny. When I saw you do that for the first time, do the Eagle for the first time in Oklahoma, I went to California right after. I'm on the plane and I'm going, man, if I'm gonna make this thing pop, I gotta have something. I gotta have a talent, a skill, something. I'm flying along. I'm like, maybe I should juggle. Like maybe I can figure out how to juggle and do some sort of like circus act. Because God knows I can't paint. And
Yeah.
sure enough, I get to California, this sold out show, and the guy comes out, motivational speaker. And what was he? He was a carny. He comes out on a unicycle juggling baseball bats. And I'm like, all right, I give up. I can't paint. I can't juggle. I can't compete. I'm just gonna talk. But I was doing this a couple weeks ago, and there was something really cool that happened. This was for my son's school. They did a Zoom like paint night, drink wine and paint.
Yeah.
Um, when I saw right out of the gate, like what the artist had and what they expected me to do that has absolutely no ability, I'm like, there's no way anything that's going to look like a sun and the water is going to happen, a sunset or a sunrise. And it's not fantastic, but it's definitely not as bad as I thought it was going to be. But the one thing I did do is
I
I
think it
signed it.
looks I think it looks great. And the foundation of all my work is that I call it messy work. In the art world, they call it abstract. And
Mhm.
abstract is messy, and it kind of stems from Jackson Pollock. Jackson Pollock was he's known as being a famous artist. And here's a guy who would just put a canvas on the floor, and he would take normal household paint and just splatter it and throw paint on it. And people, when they looked at that, they just saw a mess. But his paintings, I mean, they go for a crazy amount of money now because people stopped focusing on the mess, and then through the mess, they shifted their mindset and they started seeing some meaning. They started finding a message and a masterpiece. And so that has really become the foundation of all my work, is that it is messy. It is filled with abstract. And typically people look at that and focus on that. And whatever we focus on, we feed. So the foundation of my presentation linked to my artwork is empowering people to shift their mindset. Stop always feeding the problem, feeding the challenges, the adversities, and start focusing. It's okay to focus on the silver lining and use the silver lining and have optimism and have a more creative mind. So people, they really gravitate towards that because they're finding that meaning in the message and that masterpiece in the art. And I got to be honest with you, since this whole virus thing's popped up, I think I've sold more art than the entire 25 years that I've been doing art.
Mhm.
So that's kind of wild. But
Yeah.
people are connecting to that message.
Well, I am that painting back there that stays right there. When I'm here, and I'm thinking, and I've got uncertainty and fear or whatever. I don't know if you can hear that screaming. That's Chance going crazy trying to get into my office. That's home. That's home. That's home working at its best. But that painting I look at and I remember the first time you said, "Soar like an eagle, don't walk like a duck," and
Yep.
that that painting speaks to me, and it speaks to me every single day I'm in my office. The one that I got for Jenny Mather at JM Pet Resort that you did for me with the tree and the roots, and it
Yeah.
was you grow through what you go through, and I mean
Oh,
you talk about the timing on that painting. Um, she and her team.
right there.
Oh, hey, hold it up! You just froze
That's
real quick. Oh, there it is. Yeah.
you grow
Um,
through it too. This is the most requested painting that I do, because all of this is just it looks like junk, but it does sound a little cliche, but we always have a choice to grow from this, become better, or we can choose to be absorbed by this, feed the focus of this, and become bitter. So, I mean, it's a good visual message, is what it is.
yeah,
So,
yeah, and I mean you talk about they were doubling the size of their building. the largest project that they were undertaking. Jenny slipped on the ice and broke her leg like a week after we gave the painting. So they presented because she bought the books for all of her
Yeah.
all of her employees, and she did the awesome coffee mugs. And I actually got the painting as a thank you, because they're while I'm one of their customers with my dogs, and she's a personal friend,
Yep.
they're also one of my clients. So that was my 2019 thank you for what they did for me, and so gave the painting, and there she is, full cast, going through all this stuff. The start of COVID's coming. They delayed their holiday party, now the construction project, like all this stuff, and that tree stands tall right in their building every day. And I'm sure that they have that same idea. Are we gonna persevere and
good.
push, or are we gonna let this all get to us and eat away at us and be negative? While we were talking about that, thought just came up. So behind you, you've got one that says "Stronger Together" with a bunch of trees, and I'm assuming a similar message. Do you come up with the tagline or the thought and then do the painting, or do you just say, I think I'm going to paint this, and then come up with what it means? Like, what, or is it a combination of the two? Like, how does that come about? Like, how do you?
Well, I think I when I see something and there's kind of a message behind it, I'm an idea person. So when we were talking earlier, and you were talking about growing your business, and I asked you, what do you like to be called? Joshua, and you're like, people call me Peach. And all I can think of is, in my mind, when I hear something like that, an artist's mind, I'm thinking creative. I'm thinking, man, you could do something with that. That's gold. And so there are things that I do that I'll do like a oh gosh, a daisy painting, because daisy is known as the flower of joy. And I hear different things, symbolic things. I try to paint something and then kind of put it together. In fact, there was a group, it was the American Businesswomen's Association. So they've had me speak at their national conference many times. And this 2019, they asked if I would paint a dragonfly for them. And when you do that pre-conference call with your client, and I was sitting there and I was just like, you guys want me to paint you a bug? Okay, I'll paint you a bug. And they were like, Sam, you got to research it and learn about it. And turns out that the dragonfly is a symbol of positivity, strength, awakening. And so I just started painting dragonflies. And I got to be honest, I had never seen a dragonfly before. And one day I came in to practice painting the dragonfly, and I saw my first dragonfly. Talk about vision to reality. I saw it, and it was such a delicate creature, and it was beautiful. I went and I got my wife. I'm like, you got to see this dragonfly. And she had never seen one. And she just, when she saw it, she's like, it's a bug, kill it. I didn't kill it, but I let it loose outside. But, people have different things that are meaningful to them. And so when I paint the lion, I talk about courage. When I paint the eagle, I talk about attitude. When I paint this, I talk about being strong together. So I try to find things that have a relative meaning that people can connect to and relate to. And also for myself, because had I not practiced the dragonfly, it probably wouldn't have been meaningful to me. I would have just painted a picture, said, there you go. But instead, I painted something that was meaningful to me, and that transferred over into everybody that was watching it. It became meaningful for them as well.
Mm-hmm. No, that's
so.
That's and you have books that tie to a lot of this. Like you have a book on courage, right? I think that might be one of the only ones that I don't have. I don't have that in Lizard Lasagna. Those are the two that I know I don't have.
Usually when I'm introduced, they'll say Sam is the author of like 23 books or something. We've had to pull it back, and for humbling reasons, but there's a picture of me on social media where I actually stacked up all my books that I've written in 25 years, and it's over 57 books. And most of them are out of print right now, but I've always, since I was in high school, I always loved to write, and I'm a note taker. So when I'm listening to a speaker or something where I'm learning, I mean, I take tons of notes, and you don't see that a lot today. Every now and then you see people taking notes during a session, but but they're trying to rely on their memory. And
Hmm.
so I don't want to forget stuff. So the things that I learn, the notes that I have actually become my books. If
Hmm.
it's valuable to me, I know it'll be valuable to others. So a lot of my books are just my personal development notes dressed up in a unique way,
Yeah.
as a book. So, in fact, years ago, I went to a Jim Rohn conference, and I had a front row seat. I got there. I think the doors opened up at 9. I was there at 4:30 a.m. And I was just, my life was, I was homeless, living in the back of an '82 Buick Regal, struggling, depressed, and I was starting to turn things around a little bit. And I got a free ticket to see him. It was Mark Victor Hansen and oh gosh, Fran Tarkington. So a big Viking fan. So I was there at 4:30. I'm like, I got to get a front row seat. And when you listen to Jim Rohn speak, he's not very charismatic,
Hmm.
and he's not all over the stage, and he doesn't use a PowerPoint. He gives a lecture, but his lectures are so insightful that you just can't stop writing. Like
Hmm.
when I finished that 2-day seminar, my hand was killing me, but everybody, they all took notes, and I still have those notes, and they're so precious and valuable to me over 20 some years later.
Hmm.
So I think it's always important to have a notebook with you all the time. In fact, just talking to you, got my notebook here. I have a notebook and pen with me all the
That's
time. When an
legit
idea
old
pops up,
school.
oh, this is very well. This also uh, gives the impression that you're taking notes, because I started taking notes on my phone when we
Yeah.
go to church or somewhere or get an idea. And so it kind of looks like I'm just playing on my phone.
Hmm.
But I want to tell the pastor, hey, I'm not texting or playing on my phone. I'm just taking notes.
Yeah. You want to get a
So
rock you want to get a Rocket Book. So a Rocket Book is an old school looking notebook that
yeah.
actually is embedded, that your pen, that's got tabs on it, and you can click on what you want to do with it and take a picture of it, and it scans the QR code on that page, scans your writing, and then puts it in any file box on your computer electronically that you want. It's pretty
Oh,
slick.
neat.
It's
I
pretty
need
slick,
to
and
upgrade to that.
then it erases. Yeah. Yep. So uh, lost your video there for a second. I think we're back.
Sorry about that.
No problem. Yeah, no, you got to get you out of. I was the spiral bound high school notebook guy for a while. I mean, you're one step up from a trapper keeper, I think. But we got to get you the Rocket Book. It
I
might be the
had a
next.
trapper keeper, man.
I think we actually. That was one of. I was gonna. I told Amy, my fiance, that she had to help me out with some of the business side of stuff, and she says, "Oh, do I get a trapper keeper?" And I bought her one, but I don't know what I did with it. It's around here somewhere. Trapper
That's
keepers are the
awesome.
best.
Hey, vintage.
Yeah.
But
So what are you doing right now? Like you're like me, right? I mean, you're not doing any public speaking,
no,
unless you're.
I was like you. I was going into 2020 with my best year ever. In fact, I think right when all of this started happening, it was a kick in the gut, because I was so excited, because I'm a big fan and follower of Goalcast.
Hmm.
And they post a lot of great motivational videos, inspirational quotes and stuff. And they actually did a video on me, and it they emailed me yesterday and told me it got up to 1 million views, and asked me what I thought. And I really encouraged them. They need to put more humor into their stuff, and that,
Hmm.
work with me, because right now I think people need to laugh,
Hmm.
and laughter is joy. Laughter gives us a break from stress, and we just need to lighten up. And I mean, what we're going through isn't funny, but it doesn't mean that we can't laugh through it. I
Hmm.
mean, some of the most toughest times of my life, the fact that I could laugh during those times gave me strength, to that resilience to keep moving forward.
Hmm.
If I couldn't laugh, my attitude would have declared bankruptcy, and that's just a dangerous place to be. But I'm painting a lot. I give away a painting every day on my Facebook page, so it's become kind of a place where people can go, and all they got to do is I put a little message with the painting, and all they got to do is share it and like it, and then every night I pick a winner. And
Hmm.
so I think we're up to 64 paintings so far. So 64 days, 64 paintings. And the feedback we're getting with that is everybody likes it. They look, it's something to look forward to. And that's what we need right now, is something to look forward to, because honestly, with what's going on, there's so much uncertainty that it's hard to plan.
Hmm.
My wife and I, we were talking last night. We were thinking, what's next? How do we plan? She was getting emails for the kids for summer camps and summer school and different things, and we were just like, you can't even plan, and you
Hmm.
wake up and you don't know what's going to happen next, or you might hear the news, the virus has evolved into this,
Yeah.
and you're just like, what is going on?
Yeah.
So, every day the painting helps. The painting is therapy. Giving it away to somebody special and knowing that it's meaningful to them, it gives me a lot of purpose right now. And then when things get better, I'll get back on the road, and hopefully, eh, I mean, hopefully it will get better, and we'll be able to do those in-person meetings. I know I'm getting that itch and feeling for getting out there and interacting with people. So it's tough because I'm diabetic, and I'm a pretty big guy, so my wife doesn't really let me go out because she says you're just too sexy for the virus. So so she keeps me at home. And I mean, like last week, I did a video where I took my hair. I haven't had a haircut for,
Yeah.
I think, maybe 3 months, and I made a big mohawk, and that's why I'm wearing a hat now. Because
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not used to having a ton of hair, so I don't know how to style it. My wife's talking to me about, they use the word product. I'm like, the only product I ever used was mousse.
Yeah.
I don't even know if they still make it,
Yeah. Yeah.
but
It's
we're,
in the clearance aisle.
yeah, it's at the dollar store. Um, we're, I'm hanging in there, and I'm working on a new book. I'm calling it my final book. I said
Mhm.
that 2 books ago, but
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah, I think you
it's
said
one
it
of
was
those things.
Attitude Changes Everything was going to be, I think, your final book, right? Is that,
Yeah,
yeah.
the last, I think the last three, I think I've said like, hey, this is it. Um, and then I come out with another one,
Yeah.
but this one, when Michael Jordan, he retired, he came back. I mean,
Yeah.
it's allowed, but I'm working on a new one called, still playing with the title. It's called Positively Unforgettable, and it's about how to live an unforgettable life by living your unforgettables, the
Mhm.
things that are meaningful to you. So when you're doing these podcasts, and when you were sharing with me all these little stories about the people that you're meeting, and your adventure of starting your business, all I hear and I see are these amazing stories in your future books.
Yeah.
And I think that all of those little stories, there's a lesson there, and those lessons become your unforgettables. The fact that you're sharing them, they're unforgettable to you, and they're the things that make us unforgettable to our family, to our friends, and to those we serve every day. So that's the foundation of that book. I'm kind of taking my time on it, but I think John Gordon, he's doing laps around me right now. The guy's
Mhm.
coming out with a book every week, but he's pretty cool. I like listening to John Gordon stuff. He's a very positive guy. We have a lot of similarities. Clients will hire him, and then I feel like I'm the follow-up guy to a lot of his clients. Like, we had a positive guy last year. We'd like to have you. He's kind of positive.
Yeah.
And in fact, he tells a story about the late Zig Ziglar. Zig Ziglar took notes during a session when he was speaking, and I had a similar experience. It was in 2002. Zig took notes. I don't think he took notes. I think he wrote out his grocery list, but we still have that interaction with that I don't know, that common denominator with Zig. Zig was such a great influence on my life and my business, and so I try to pay that forward to people like you, and and let you know, like, when you do your artwork or when you do a speech and stuff. My personal brand, my philosophy is, I'm rooting for you. I'm not competing against you at all. There's enough for all of us, but I'm rooting for your best every day, and that's what I try to tell people every day is, hey, it doesn't have to be perfect. Allow yourself the grace to progress and get better. Allow yourself to make mistakes, learn from the mistakes, and grow from them. And so that's why I'm a huge fan of yours, because I see this progression, and you can just tell you're picking up that momentum to impacting a lot of people's lives, and that's going to be the result down the road. So you got a lot of purpose in what you're doing, man.
No, I appreciate it. No, and you make some really great points. One was you're introducing me to Eddie, Eddie Slokowski. That was out of left field. I get this message. Hey, I'm Eddie. Sam told me I have to meet you, and we have to talk. And I met him in person and broke bread and had dinner with him before I did with you, and knowing you for 5 years and following you. And now it's become a good friendship. And I was telling Amy last night, it's really amazing. A lot of the speakers that I've gotten to know over the last couple of years just through instances like this, how much you care, like you genuinely care. And a lot of people get that feeling, like you go up on stage, you sit in front of hundreds of thousands of people, you do your thing, you get your pay, and you're on your way. And they're just words. And it's really powerful and meaningful when it's more than words. Because at one point I was just a guy in the audience. I was a guy that bought your book and went up and said, hey, could you write to Josh, and here we are today, and you're a huge influence and help for me. Just because.
Well, you made a good point there, more than words, because I know you work a lot with the ASBO groups.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, they see you on stage, they assume that what you get paid for is on stage. I think the on stage stuff, I do that for free. People pay me to travel because I don't like traveling. People pay me to be away from my family, and people pay for the years of trying to get better. But there's so much that people don't see behind the scenes. I remember the one story that stands out the most is for years I spoke at a lot of the ASBO conferences. Obviously, that's how we met and got to know each other. But I think it was the Arizona ASBO conference, and I wasn't feeling good. I have like crazy allergies, so I'm sitting here. I'm just I'm afraid to go out in public now with allergies, because if I sniffle or sneeze, I just feel like somebody's going to yell, "He's got it!" So, I don't know what to do, but that's one of my big fears right now. He's got it.
Oh yeah.
And getting called out in public. No, it's just allergies. Liar. But it was the Arizona ASBO. I wasn't feeling that great. I didn't feel like I gave my best speech, but I got a standing ovation. And in fact, one of the best schools in Arizona booked me to speak at, to all their educators, which I love. And but I was finishing signing books. I don't really sell books at events anymore, and mostly because not that I don't like providing it. I kind of point people to my website. It's just that the older I get, the lazier I'm getting. I'm like, I don't feel like dragging books along. So if you want to get a book, just go to my website. I'll sign it and ship it to you. But I had finished signing books, and there was a guy that, and I was running late, and I had to get to a flight, because you know how after you might give a speech, they do like announcements and stuff, and you're just like, okay, I don't know if they're going to end this thing ever. I got a flight, and all my stuff's on stage. So this guy kind of waited, and he shared this story with me about he came up to me and he said, Sam, I haven't laughed in 3 years. And he says, my little boy, I think his son was under the age of 5. He said, I lost my son 3 years ago, and my son loved to laugh. And he says, I haven't laughed since. And he says, today's the first day I had a breakthrough and I laughed. And I could just see, when people are trying to share their stories and it's meaningful to them, I have such incredible empathy for that. And I could tell that he was trying to, probably like me, when you feel the emotion coming in, I have to pull it back. I have to think, Sam, remember that time you stubbed your toe? Think about it over and over. And so I just sat with this guy, and so this was like an all-inclusive type event where I got paid, but I've always tried to, work with ASBO's budgets and stuff. But to fly from Arizona to Indianapolis, it's an expensive ticket.
Yeah.
And so I sat with that guy, and I missed my flight. And that's the part that people don't see, is that I think to rebook it, it was like $1,200. I had to book a hotel, and you know what? To me, it wasn't a burden. To
Hmm.
me, it was a reminder of why I do what I do, that it's just more than words or trying to captivate people on stage without a PowerPoint. And,
Hmm.
but when I sat there with him, I thought, you know, if I was ever in that place, I would want somebody to do that for me. And so I've been encouraging all of the people I've been talking to doing virtual sessions. The things that make a difference right now are remembering to be an example, because an example makes a difference during this time. Remember to be encouraging to yourself, to your family, to others, and then remembering the power of empathy, that we all respond to adversity differently. So it's being empathetic and knowing that we're all trying to work through emotions, and that what's going on can be taking a toll. And so we're trying to work through that. So it's being that, having that empathetic patience and compassion, and those are my three E's that I've been sharing with people: example, encouragement, and empathy. And
Hmm.
I think those three things will really make a difference right now.
Hmm.
But I just thought I would share that story because I know you work a lot with ASBO, and it's a story that I don't tell that story on stage. It's just one
Hmm.
of those stories that I would share over coffee because it meant something to me, and I know it meant something to him too. So that's right there. That was worth it.
You know, for me, that's been the greatest reward. You know, we all have to eat, but the reward of what we do is those experiences, and it's when you have
Mm,
those experiences. And one of the things that I when I started was, and I'm sure you had the same feeling, it's like you walk into a room and you're like, I want to wow everyone. And then the reality of what we do is I want to wow someone,
yeah.
and just make sure that you have that connection with one person, just one person that does what that gentleman did. I can remember one of the first times I did a keynote. Um, I think the title of it was "To Change or Not to Change? How is the question?" And it was one of my first. And this woman walked up. I got done, and I felt okay. It's always when you feel okay that it's like the most powerful, impactful one that people are into, right? Because
Yeah.
maybe it's because you think you feel off, but maybe it's more that you feel you and real, and everything is there and put together. I don't know what it is, but I was
Yeah.
like, I got done, and I was like, oh, this is okay. I was feeling like I was happy. Nobody threw anything at me, and wrapping up, doing all my stuff, and this woman walks
Mhm.
up and just gives me this huge hug. And I'm like,
Mm.
oh, okay. And she said, for the last year, I felt like I've had no purpose. And I'm like, huh? And she says, my son was killed in a car accident. And
Mm.
I just started to cry. I'm like, oh my God, like I didn't know how to like, and she sat and she talked to me for about 10 minutes. And I
Yep.
just sat there and listened and was like, you should be sharing the importance and the power of being able to change, and how impactful, like getting uncomfortable and all the things that I just talked about, like you're doing it, you just didn't realize
Hmm.
it.
Yeah.
But I've stayed in contact with her this whole time. We check in and talk every so often and everything, and that's just so, like those are the things that people, like you say, they don't see,
Yeah.
that you get to experience, and that gives me so much more than I could ever give anyone. Like I want to impact
Yep.
someone to the point where they're going to share something with me that's going to be
Yeah.
so far greater than anything that I could
Yep.
have given. And no, that's it. You get it a lot. And it's interesting when you get it, when I'm sure you get it when you travel, and you're we're practicing all the time. We're
Yeah.
practicing when we're on our plane. We're practicing interaction and engagement and body language, and making sure that what we're saying are the right words, and word adjustment and association and all this stuff. And it's funny because I'll be sitting at the airport typing something up and waiting for my flight, and the person next to me will give me a little nudge. Oh, you want to read my paper? And it's like, if I want to read your paper, I'd ask you for it because it's been sitting on your lap for half an hour, but I'm doing my email. But no,
Yeah.
no, I'm good. I don't actually read the newspaper. It smells nice, but I don't read it. I get it on my computer, and then
Yeah.
they get a nudge, a nudge a couple seconds later. It's like, hey, it's going to be a good day to fly. I'm like, I guess so. I'm not a pilot. I'm a passenger, and then it's like, A couple seconds later, it's like nudge, like, so what do you do? And you go, oh, well, I'm a inspirational, motivational speaker. Well, tell me something. And it's like,
Yes.
right now, it's
Yeah.
like, what do you like? It's not like a canned, as much as you
I
think it's like
know.
this canned everything put together. It's an emotional. I'm sure you've done it. I do it every time I get up on stage. I have an idea. Like I have a
Yeah.
framework. I have the things I want to cover. But if you
Yep.
get up on stage and all of a sudden your front row is not the audience that you thought or that you expected, or it's not, they say it's going to be 700 people, but it's the first thing in the morning and there's 300. Like, you're always adjusting, right? So it's not.
Yeah.
We're not robots. So
I hear that so much, Sam. We're expecting 1,000
yeah,
people. Oh man, 5 showed up. This is fantastic.
yeah,
Well,
yeah.
and I, for me, it's never about how many people, because I've spoken to audiences as large as 75,000 at a stadium event, and there's one group that I do a lot with school boards, and there's one school board association that they won't hire me until they see me speak to a big crowd.
Hmm.
But I spoke to big crowds for almost 2 years because I worked with the Billy Graham Evangelical Association, Teen Mania. So
Hmm.
I was emceeing and speaking to thousands and trying to manage thousands. In fact, but I was going to tell a story, but had an ADD moment. But I like the smaller groups. I
Yeah.
like the more intimate groups because you can get better interaction,
Hmm.
and it feels more personable and connection. So I think the older I'm getting, when somebody calls up and says, Sam, we're only going to have 50 people, I'm like, fantastic.
Right.
12 people, great. Let's sit in a circle, sing Kumbaya, and talk motivation.
Yeah.
It doesn't, that the size doesn't really matter, but uh, for me, it's just like you said, it's about getting ready, having that idea of impact, but also allowing yourself to have the flexibility to
Mhm.
improv, you know, to change things up a little bit. I studied
Mhm.
improv at Second City, and I got to tell you, I tell everybody who wants to get into speaking, probably the best thing you can do is take an improv class, because you have
Yeah.
to learn to play off your environment.
Mhm.
And what do you do when your crowd's not into it, or somebody gets up and like me, I have ADD and I don't take medication. When somebody gets up and walks out to go to the bathroom, and that just throws my focus, how do you manage that? So improv has helped me a lot.
Yeah.
That has just saved me, because some groups, every group I would say is different. Some groups, they have that energy, they're ready for you. You leave and you're just like, there's that ego. You're like, I am great. I am special. And then you go on to the next one, you're like, I am nothing.
Yeah.
I am worthless. So, I mean, every event has a different experience and a different energy. And I would say, for the most part, a good majority, 90% of the ones I speak at, even if there isn't a great energy, I will bring it and I will create it and kind of
Mhm.
funnel it. By the end,
Yeah.
we're all there. But the ones that I struggle with and I don't do anymore are like usually the after dinner ones, where they're like,
Mhm.
they've had open bar for
Yeah.
3 hours,
Yeah.
and I did one where they had an open bar, and the client came up. She says, Sam, they've been drinking for 2 hours. What we're going to do is have you speak for an hour and then give them food. I'm like, should you give them food? And I got to tell you, it was just one of the most, it, it was, it was, I want to tell you how bad it was. When I was done, my client actually came up and said, we'd like to give you more money. I mean, that was like 12, 13 years ago.
Yeah.
And, and
There's
so
still places that are doing it. They actually do it at open bar during the speaking.
oh,
I
yep. Yeah, they
actually
do.
had one of those. I walked in and I'm looking around. I'm like, they got bars set up in this ballroom with the stage. I'm like, and everybody's and they're double fisting. They're like, I gotta have enough of this
Yes.
talk. I don't want to have to
I
get
don't
up.
want to get
So they're
up.
double
Yep.
fisting, sitting down. I'm like, oh, this is gonna be a good crowd. But by the end of it, you're like looking doing some pulse checking. Yeah, it's kind of
It,
funny. Some of
oh
the
man, we should do a podcast on the adventures of speaking, because it's just I always tell people when they call up about that after dinner thing. The only thing I suggest for like after dinner where people are drinking is, you know, go with like a magician or maybe a really famous celebrity or something,
yeah,
or sports figure, but to have a dinner and to have people drink and then just book you to give an inspirational speech for an hour, to me
mhm,
that would be torture.
right,
So I always say just kind of go that route, go with something a little more entertaining, and let them drink and have a good time.
yeah.
So
Or
but
they try to squeeze you in during dinner. That's the biggest one. And
we're gonna
I'm a non you know, the doctors haven't told me that I have ADD, but I'm right there. I definitely get distracted. You know, oh look, they're shiny objects. You know, all that stuff. And you know,
yeah.
you're doing one of those, and people are just ripping through their steak and clanging their glasses and everything. You're just like, what the hell
or
was I? What was I talking about again? Where am I? That's a
yeah
wrap.
or the wait staff trying to clean up dishes, and you're just like, for the love of all that's holy, just stop.
let
So,
them let them sit for 5 more minutes. Hmm.
yeah. So, but I like, you know, I enjoy what I do, and I think that I love encouraging people, because my whole philosophy is it all starts with how we think, and when we think better, we're going to do better. So when you think about all the skills, the talent, and experience that people have, the realization is that whatever attitude you choose, whatever attitude you put in front of you, all of those things are going to follow. So if you've got the wrong attitude set in front of you, it doesn't matter how talented, how skilled, how great you are, how much experience you have, you're really going to defeat yourself through that attitude. So the groups that bring me in are the ones that typically, what I have found, the groups that bring me in, they don't need a motivational speaker. They are, you always hear people say, Sam, this group needs to have you. They're so negative and toxic. But those aren't the groups that reach out to hire you. The groups
Hmm.
that reach out to hire you, they're the ones that have an incredible appraisal of attitude and the right attitude working through their people. And so, because they have that high appraisal, they understand that my session is about recharging and empowering people to think better, because they know that that when we think better, we're going to lead better, love better, serve better, make better choices, and that's where it all starts. So, because they have that appraisal, they understand that we need to recharge, refocus, renew, rekindle, and so those are the groups that really hire me the most. They are the ones that when I leave a session, I'm thinking I would work for this company, because they
Hmm.
know how to take care of their people, they know how to empower them, they believe in the right attitude, and partnering that right attitude with the right skills.
Yeah.
So I love that.
Yeah, and that's solid right there because you know, I think one of the times that I saw you speak might have been the first one. You came right out and you're like, not all you guys are gonna like me, and it's not me. You probably just need more fiber or something. You said something like that, and I was like, oh my god, this is great. But you know, if someone, you know, if somebody wants to be positive, they can be positive, and if somebody's set to be negative, they're going to be negative, and there's nothing that I can do to take that negativity out. Like there's no magic pill. Like if you're having, you know, people have bad days. We all have bad days, but some people choose to have bad lives, and you can't.
Mm,
You are really having a hard time of fixing that. But if someone's having a bad day but has that inner positivity, that little ray of optimism, that little hope that they have somewhere, that's
yeah,
the stuff that you really bring out. People bring out that are like you, that says, okay, you've got this. You know, you've got this. I'm behind you. I'm in your corner. Like I always tell people, I'm always in your corner. And that sometimes that's all people need. But
yeah,
it's those groups
yeah,
that have that. Like, you know, you're like you. If somebody called me and they were like, "Hey, my company is like toxic. Everybody hates each other. They're street fighting every day. You know, they're slashing each other's tires and you know, just craziness." No,
yeah,
no, thank you. Like, you're just going to be throwing good money on top of a bad situation that's not going to get any better. It's those groups that say, "Hey, we've got really great people. They're having a hard time. They're
yep,
going through a struggle. The business officials are always going through a struggle, and they're the hands down. And why I have such a passion for school business officials is they don't go to school for that career. There's nobody goes through high school and they go, hey, I can't wait to be a business manager for a public school district when I get out.
Yeah.
They go and they do something, and then someone says, you know, you're really good with numbers, you're really good with this. Why don't you think about becoming a school business manager? And it's super rewarding. They're great people. They're doing it for all the right reasons, but they get, you know, as many of them get beat up every day because, you know, they have to make the difficult decisions on where the dollars are spent in schools. And it can hurt, and it can make their day difficult because they're trying to do the right things all the time. So all the people in those audiences are amazing, awesome humans. They just need a little pick me up every once in a while. And it's great when you get to do that.
Yeah, and that's a good point. We all need that little pick-me-up, something that just kind of, I mean, I've been researching and studying and speaking on attitude and the positivity stuff, but even I need a pick-me-up from time to time. We all need that to rekindle that, you know, that enthusiasm and excellence and purpose within us. In fact, I spoke at an HR conference, and this guy, he reaches out and he emailed me. He says, man, at the event, I was all pumped up, and now it's been 2 weeks and I'm back to where I was. And that's when you talk about responsibility is that, hey, I'll help you start the campfire and get it going again, but it's up to you to keep it going. Right. And finding ways to keep that spark going. And that's why I love, I really, one of the greatest audiences I love speaking with are educators. And I get booked to, I mean, I practically lived in Texas for 3 years, speaking at in-service meetings because, oh gosh, it was the Texas School Board Association. Yep. You know, these people are getting marketed to by speakers all the time, but luckily I caught this woman on the right day. And my philosophy is, as a small business, people can't hire you if they don't know who you are or get to know you. And she took a chance on me, and I turned out I was one of the best speakers they've ever had in the history of their meetings. And all of those people who make decisions for schools, they brought me in as a way to empower the teachers and the support staff. And I love that because usually when you walk in with educators, a lot of them, their arms are crossed and they're just like, all right, here we go. And to give them something different, because they're the ones that are influencing our future, educating these young people and classroom management and having to plan lessons and teach and educate. So when I'm speaking to educators, I'm not talking about young people. I'm talking about them, because when they become better as a person, when they become better inside, they're going to become better at what they do, and that's what the impact is. So I would say if you know, when people ask me what's the best group that you speak to, all of them. I love speaking to everybody, but I really have a love and a passion to speak to educators. But getting in that open door through like an association or an educational association, that's the hard part. But once you get in that open door, make a little bit of history with that group, do a good job, that's when it just leads to your love affair of really impacting the people that make a difference. Yeah. So yeah.
Well, let's make sure that we talk about that. Let's make sure everybody knows how to get a hold of you. First of all, that Facebook, I'm going to put your Facebook link all over Be Awesome and this podcast. But they just search for Sam Glenn, motivational speaker.
Sam Glenn Speaks. Okay. It's facebook.com / Sam Glenn Speaks.
Okay. And it's the Art of Optimism, I think, is what the art giveaway, is that what you're calling it, or is it?
Well,
is there something?
We call it the motivational art giveaway.
Okay.
And so I started losing track after 20, so we start numbering them. Today's number 64, and they just every day it might be something. It's something different.
So go there every day.
Yeah, I go there every day because there's two things I post there every day. I always post a positive quote because I believe you got to start your mind off right, feed it something right, get it set for the day. So they can go there, get an original positive quote every day or a new quote, and then have a chance to win some artwork for their desk or home, or something that connects to them. And but I also encourage people to keep feeding their minds during this time. So I put something on my website. I have two websites. The one where all my books are is samglennbooks.com,
Hmm.
and they can actually download 7 books for $7. And it's an ebook.
Yep.
And I think it's one of the ones that you have there. I picked out 7 that I think would really help people during this time. And so
Hmm.
uh, they're going to laugh, be inspired. And so that's on that site.
Yep. Yeah, and I'll put this on here, and it is you're right. The books, which I like I said, I'm going to do the $7 just because I know the Courage and Lizard Lasagna that are 2 of the 7. I know I don't have, but Be Your Own Real Life Superhero, I think, was one of the first ones that I read. The Gift of Attitude, Life is Better When You're Laughing, The Magic of Enthusiasm, and Attitude Changes Everything. And these are easy reads.
Yep.
I'm not a huge reader. They're an easy read. And it's one of those, it is a book that you could just open up and just read, a handful of pages anywhere and pick up from it, take something from it. You do want to read it front to back, top to bottom, left to right, that whole thing. That's how most books are read. But if you wanted to, some of them you could just pick it up and open up a page and just start reading, and you'll definitely get something that'll for me, I always try to have at least a couple of books that'll get my day going. This isn't one of yours, but
Yeah.
this is the easiest read right now, and it's my reminder. It's 212 degrees.
Yep.
The extra degree. 211 degrees. Water's hot. 212 degrees. It's boiling, and steam is produced, and you can run a locomotive. So it's just one of those mindset
Yeah.
things that you have to get through on all of this stuff. Your website to get more information, I have you speaking is it Sam Glenn?
samglenn.com.
2 N's, samglenn.com.
Yep.
You're doing the paint giveaways, Facebook. Are you doing some bookings? Are you getting some bookings coming back online?
I
talking
am
to
actually doing a lot of virtual sessions,
Mhm.
and but I'm making them a little bit shorter.
Mhm.
So we just started something called the Motivational 111, where um, it's just we try to keep it laid back. It's one of those things where I believe in good mental health, and as a leader, you got to make sure your people are thinking right, because as people are going out there wearing the mask, but they might have that double mask where they're going through a struggle, and we need that moment to pump up our positivity. So we do like a 10 to 15 minute, 10 to 15 minute Zoom call like this. Everybody gets a book, an ebook, and then they get a coupon voucher, $1,000 off my in-person fee. So we've been doing that, and a lot of groups are really liking it. But I've noticed that the groups that have me for one session, for one 10 to 15 minute session, they're coming back like trying to do something monthly. And so they really like that, where they bring people together and get everybody thinking right, and just feeding their mind something good. So that's the one thing I'm noticing is everybody's like, we'd like a little bit more of that. So
Well, good. Well,
yeah.
I will make sure that everybody knows how to get a hold of you. I really appreciate you giving the time here today. We're going to be doing something kind of creative and neat next week. So I got you twice in 1 week. We'll be talking me, you, Eddie, and David Cooks. You're going to love David, who you haven't met yet. But really appreciate you giving the time here today. Hope you guys have a great long weekend. I got a package going in the mail of your supply of shirts. For those that don't know, the Super Awesome shirt, which I'm wearing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it was books I ordered right around the 1-year anniversary last year of Be Awesome, and something that you do that's really cool. And I know that you're bigger than just shipping to me, but every single thing that I've ever ordered from you, it might just be 3 words, but there's always a handwritten something that's in that package that sometimes is more powerful than what the package is meant to be, because it shows that you care. It's a handwritten something, and you wrote it. I've got it in my office here somewhere, and you were like, you need a cape. You need a cape. You're so awesome, or something like that. And I was like, I wonder if I could spell super with periodic elements and do a Super Awesome shirt. And sure enough,
Yeah.
I found the periodic elements. I sent you a message. I'm like, good news. I'm going to do a limited 100 shirt. That's all I'm making. Super Awesome shirt, and it's dedicated to you on the 1-year anniversary. Got a handful of them. I might have one in your size left, so if I do, I'll pack it up as well. But you were the creative genius behind Super Awesome. So now I got to figure out something peach awesome. I wonder if I could spell it. I'm gonna have to go back to my periodic element table.
Life is peachy, but I'll tell you, I think you sent me like maybe one or two of the Be Awesome hats, and
limited edition hats. Yeah.
And I got to tell you, every time I did a video post with those or went out in public, I got more responses with that hat. And I'm not lying, but both of them have been stolen.
Okay.
I mean, I've been places with family where they're just like, man, that's a cool hat. And then I go to leave them like, where's my hat? So they're both gone.
I will have some hats made, because I had, I think, 20 hats made. And I might have, if I have any left, I will send them your way, because they do disappear. But
yeah, people like those hats. You'll do good with those, because everywhere I went, the post office, grocery store, you always evoked a response, because people, they look at it and you know, they're trying to read it and put it together, and they're just like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
So it makes their day. It really does.
It's the best. And what's funny is I put a post on my personal Facebook page a couple of weeks ago. I've been cleaning out my basement, and I found a chemistry test chemistry quiz. And on the last question, it's like, what is the moletility or whatever? I don't even know what moletility is. But I drew this picture of, supposedly it was a picture of me. And I got my hand up, and then I got like an air bubble that says, I love chemistry. And then on the back behind me is a guy laying down under the emergency shower that says, I'm burning. That was my answer to the moletility question. I only got a 68, but I was sitting there going, man, how did I come up? You know, I got a company made out of periodic elements, and I'm drawing pictures of people burning, saying I love chemistry in 1992. Like, how times have come full circle. But it is, people look at it and they try to figure it out, and then when they do, it puts a smile on their face. And the people
does.
And the people that figure it out right out of the gate puts a smile on their face. So you're guaranteed to put a smile on someone's face when you wear something that says "Be Awesome." So really appreciate your support, my friend. That's going to be a wrap for this episode. As Sam talks about, people love Be Awesome stuff. So we've got shirts. I've got a handful of Super Awesome shirts. We're selling everything off right now. You don't have to pay shipping and handling. We're going to drive down our inventory and switch over to all American made. We got 100% American made spandex cotton face coverings, $10, no shipping and handling. I put them in the mail. They look cool. They're black with the Be Awesome logo on it. People have been loving them. First shipment went out this week. You know, follow us, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. Please subscribe, like, share, comment, reviews and ratings on iTunes specifically. You do it, you get a free t-shirt. Save $24.99. Give me your address, josh@beawesome.com, and we'll get that out to you. So this has been an amazing episode for me. I'm glad I got to share a little bit of my story of how I got started. I know you knew a little bit of it, and the power that you helped get me to get going. That piece of optimism and hope just needed a kickstart, and I got it that September in 2015 in Oklahoma City. So thank you very much, my friend. If you can if you can do the ratings and reviews on iTunes, just before I forget, and you send me josh@beawesome.com. I have sizes small to 3XL. That's that's my disclaimer, because I had someone that asked me for a extra small or extra small. I haven't gone that small yet, but I'm working on it. So with that said, if you can be anything, be awesome. Have a great day.